Are you someone who likes experiencing colossal amounts of pain and grief as you watch the thing you've been working on for hours slowly fall apart? Or maybe having a sigh of relief after you barely scrape by? Then boy oh boy, do I have a game for you. Rimworld. If you're familiar with the combination of gaming and the feelings I just mentioned, then perhaps you're familiar with Rimworld already. But if not, prepare yourself for one of the most broad experiences you can have while gaming. Rimworld, from a first glance, doesn't look like much, maybe a little simple even, which partly you wouldn't be wrong. The graphics aren't anything crazy, and without knowing any better just looking at screenshots of the game, it looks like most base-building defense games. But you would not believe how wrong you could be. Well, maybe not about the graphics, but you don't play Rimworld to take breathtaking screenshots. You play Rimworld because it will bring you some of the most crazy and outlandish stories and experiences you've had while gaming. Or maybe you play because you thought Rimworld stood for something else entirely, and now you've stuck around for the gameplay. Don't get me wrong, if you're looking for quick thrills or a game you can hop on and hit 360 no-scopes for 30 minutes, this isn't really that. Or is it? But if you have a few hours to sit down and play, then Rimworld has to be one of the best time sinks out there. You'll not even notice your very existence fading away as you play until 4 a.m. accidentally. Your dog will be waiting by an empty food bowl, your kids will be wondering why dad hasn't been out of the office for days, and your parents, well, they'll still think you're a loser, so nothing new there. But once you start playing Rimworld, it's hard to stop. Until, that is, you get absolutely burnt out from the horrors your colony is going through. It's truly a stupendous way to spend time on your computer. The base game alone is a fantastic product, and now you start adding some DLC and mods into the mix, and you're baking a real cake. But let's keep it simple for now, and I'll tell you what Rimworld is all about. Firstly, no, it has nothing to do with butts, as some people joke when they ask me what I'm playing, and I respond with Rimworld. But anyways, let's start from the beginning. Beginning your Rimworld experience starts you off with customizing your playthrough, where you'll be choosing between difficulties, the planet you land on, what colonists you plan to lead to their eventual demise, and more. As you add DLCs or mods, it adds more to the starting process, so that's why your games may look a little different. But once you've finished customizing your own horror story, next thing you know, your unlucky colonists are crash landing, and it's up to you to get them their own source of food, making sure they're defended, have sources of happiness, and that they're able to work towards the main goal of the game, which is to get off that god-forsaken planet by researching and building spaceships. But let's not worry about the destination. For Rimworld is all about the journey, which, depending on how you picked your journey, decides on how difficult it will be. There's 3 different styles of play. The Cassandra Classic, which is just normal Rimworld. Then there's Phoebe Chillax, that gives you more breathing room between hostile events. And then Randy Random, which is true random. You could either breeze your way through the whole game, or die within 5 minutes of landing. Besides difficulty, you can also choose between the vanilla start, or perhaps a tribe that was already on the planet when all hell broke loose. Or even just fully customizing your start, and you could land with 10 people that are all dumbasses if you really wanted to. Basically, from the start to finish of this game, you are customizing and evolving your story. Now, you may be thinking, okay, so far that all sounds like pretty standard stuff for a survival colony sim. Where's all this craziness coming from? What's so special, huh? Why should I spend 35 USD on this game, plus up to 65 USD worth of DLC? And to be honest with you, you shouldn't. Have a good day, and thanks for watching. No, but at this moment I have 709 hours into Rimworld, and I could easily see myself getting 4 or 5 times that. So for $35 and what I spent on DLC, which was on sale at the time, but besides the point, I have definitely got my time value out of it. This game is so great, I have 2 shortcuts on my desktop. I don't know how that happened or why, so don't ask, but I have no plans on stopping, even though I am actually butt cheeks at this game. In all my hours, I have yet to make it to the end and launch a spaceship, which, to be fair, I do play on the no reload mode, so you can't save scum, and on a bit of a higher difficulty. But still, I'm not great at rimming the world. Anyways, though, let's finally talk about what makes Rimworld so different and crazy to these other games, such as Dwarf Fortress. Well, there's tons of examples and things I could show you, too many to cover in one video or without, just spoiling different things to you before you even get the chance to play the game, so let's just stick to some of my favorite things that have happened to me. And unfortunately, not all of them are recorded, so bear with me a little, but I can't recall a single other game where I've accidentally let an emu hatch in my storage shed where it proceeded to eat all my food, grow up, and then get blacked out drunk on the alcohol that I had in there. Before I eventually noticed the emu and at that point, he was still going to be passed out for another 45 hours. Or the time I had a traveling caravan visit to trade some stuff, and then a raid happened, and, well, let's just say the caravan acted as my first line of defense. But on the topic of raids, I've also had a band of literal children passing by when a raid happened, and I think you can imagine what happened to those poor digital pixels. There is no mercy in Rimworld. Or when I was doing a naked brutality run, which is one of the preset start conditions I mentioned earlier, on this one you have one person, no items, and no hope. But just as I was getting halfway set up and had 2 prisoners to recruit and expand my colony, well, this happened. That's game. The cougar decided to hunt me, and it popped up, and I couldn't even move 2 tiles, and it was at me. Which, that's not really one of my favorite moments, but it does bring me much pain and suffering, so I hope you enjoy that. I think one of my favorites though was when I had a colony of stoners who had barely survived a raid and were all injured to the point of barely keeping their eyes open, yet they kept trying to get out of bed despite their injuries to go and smoke. And then how this game works, they'd lose enough consciousness after smoking, on top of being injured, to knock themselves out right on the spot. I can imagine that happens to most people who do a colony of stoners. But it was probably one of the most funny and also frustrating things I've ever had happen in this game. Somehow, Rimworld can be super relaxing, but also infuriating, while also being somewhat slow, but full of action. It really is a fantastic mixture of feelings, and absolute tragedies can happen on this game. Your colonists can get hit in the head and go brain dead, or if you have 0 luck like me, you'll get a super cool advanced tech eyeball to install on your sharpshooter, just to have your medical colonist critically fail the surgery, and then you're left with a blind huntsman. Or one of your characters being chased by a boomalope, which is exactly what it sounds like, gets stuck in melee with it, and their only choice is to go out with it. But on the other end, you can experience triumph when stuff like this happens, for example. This game is great because if you have severe ADHD like me, you can play it in the background of other games, thanks to the pause and speed controls. Just be careful you don't leave the game unpaused and forget, and yeah, odds are you're gonna come back to this message. But that's just a few experiences this game has to offer. And of course, the later you get into runs, the more technology you have unlocked and the crazier the game can get. Unfortunately, for you guys though, since I'm terrible at this game, you won't see much of the late game in this video. So you're welcome for being so bad to totally avoid spoilers. I can remember having one of my runs ended by what was the equivalent of Rimworld Wookiees that had chain shotguns instead of bowcasters, drop potting right into the middle of my base, and the true randomness of this game, in combination with its creative possibilities, make this game's only limit the person playing. Sure, when you start a new game, there's a few scripted things that happen, such as introducing you to the DLCs and such, but from there, it is all up to you and what the game decides to throw at you. Feel like making a band of roaming cannibals that harvest organs and sell them? Go for it. Do you like ranching and you want to raise an army of turtles to fight for you? You can do that too. Or maybe you're interested in becoming the Techno Union from Star Wars and having droids do all your bidding. Anything you want. The possibilities are near endless and the mods just add on to that. The only thing this game is missing to make it the perfect experience is a true multiplayer, not just a modded one. I hope someday that they add to the base game where you have the options to play the different multiplayer experiences, like a co-op mode where you are each working on a single colony towards the same goal, or one where you're in separate colonies and have the options to PvP or trade with each other. I just feel like a multiplayer experience and servers on this game would add a lot more value to this already amazing game. But now, the base game already allows you to raise armies of elephants, mortar your enemies to death, make your colony into an involuntary organ donation station, create a group of cannibals, be invaded by man-slaughtering robots, and so on. But what about the DLCs? Well, I'll quickly go over them for you, hopefully helping you decide if you want to spend the extra money on them or even just buy the game in the first place. Anyways, first up we have Royalty. It adds a new faction to the game called the Shattered Empire, which is a super advanced faction that has a lineage of psychic powers and royal titles that you can climb through. You can choose to help them, but you don't always have to be friends with them. And you'll still be able to gain the psychic powers, you just won't have the benefits of being friends with the Empire. It also adds some more nature elements to the game, where you can get different kinds of powers by connecting with nature. But to be honest with you, Royalty is probably the DLC I've interacted with the least, not to say that I avoid it, I'm just more interested in the other ones. Which, speaking of, next up we have Ideology, and from the name, I'm sure some of you guys can guess that it basically adds a sort of religion system to Rimworld. They call these ideoligions, made up of memes, and it allows you to entirely change your playstyle from the start. Anything from underground mole people or blind vampires to a colony who believes nature is superior, or the opposite end and believes humans are above all, or maybe trying to chill and have a colony of people that are constantly high on smoke leaf. Whatever it may be, it will help you mix up or completely change your playthroughs. Lastly, we have Biotech, which is my favorite of the 3 current DLC. This one affects more of the mid to late game, when the others start early, but that's not to say nothing in this DLC changes the game until then, because it adds new xeno-humans that have different abilities and passives. You can get sweaty nerds that are good at engineering, but bad with anything physical, or you can get impids that are super fast and, breathe fire, or just, literal pig people. In total, there's 10 new xeno-humans to run into or have as part of your colony. But further than that, you can add traits to your normie humans and evolve them into cat people or make the perfect marksman, and so on. But besides making people into science experiments, Biotech also adds new mechanoids to control, or just even make your entire colony be robots, because computers are my friends, while also exploring the dark arts of vampirism to make your colonists live forever. Or arguably the most unrealistic addition, you can start your own family. Overall though, each DLC adds little bits to the base game mechanics as well as their own new mechanics. Rimworld is incredibly moddable and allows you to live out any kind of story you want, no matter how fucked up it is. I think just about anyone who's played this game could agree with me on most of my points, and that this game is crazy and one of the best time sinks of all time, even without the DLC. Between its soundtrack and endless possibilities, I can understand why it's got a 98% upvote on Steam out of 150,000 reviews. So go ahead and waste your life away in the best way possible, making a colony of cute kittens that secretly want to eat you. Oh wait, that's just cats in general. Honestly, this game is far more deep than one video could ever cover, and I highly recommend you try it out for yourself. If you like writing your own stories while playing games, then Rimworld might be perfect for you. Or, if you like pain and suffering and restarting over and over, then Rimworld might be for you as well. But on that note, I'm out of here, and I'll see you next time.